Colorful radio.
So, as I said, I am now happy to announce that in the building is not only Rasheed Ogunlaru, the life coach.
Pleased to be here.
But also Miss Terri Walker.
Hello.
How are you, my darling?
I'm really good. My energy already this morning has been amazing. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome, my lovely. You're welcome. So, before I ask you the main question that I ask all my guests, let's just talk about that song, because as we explained off air, This Is My Time is a track that we found for Rasheed. It's his theme tune as he comes into the building.
Thank you, by the way.
Amazing. Thank you for choosing it.
But this is also, well, it is not even also, it is your song. So can you just tell me where you were at when you wrote it?
It's funny because that song is actually the song where I was signed, I'm on a major label, and that's the song that I actually departed my label with. And the thing is, the first song that they released off the album was a song that was completely not me, as we just talked about, Lisa.
Yes. Whoops,
don't even, every time I think about that song, it makes me cringe, and I just start getting really angry. But then obviously the song that was meant to rectify that whole situation was This Is My Time. And I then obviously left the label, and it got like 1 week of airplay, and then it just disappeared. You couldn't even find it anywhere after that. But the funny thing is that the lyrics are so true, especially for me right now. What I'm going through in life is perfect for me right now. So
when you say you left the label after that track was released, is it really bad that the image I've got in my head now is like Empire cookie style? So you just like, no, I'm not doing that. This is my time. Coat goes over the shoulder, and you just strut walk like Tyra Banks. You do a spin and you just slam the door.
I wish it wasn't as cool as that. It wasn't as cool as that. I was like, okay, bye. But no, it was a funny time, because I think I was young, and I just wanted to be, at the time I just wanted to sing, so I didn't really know that much about the business side of things, so I'd go along with things, obviously. And that's why, and the funny thing is that song, everything that I say in that song I should have actually been about, at the time. And those are the songs that I wanted to release. Whoopsie Daisy was a song I didn't even write. The label was more like, we need this song, this is a song that's going to catapult you into, and I was like
And the funny thing is, for anyone who feels they know you, because I don't know you, but I feel like I know you.
Yes.
I kind of knew that it was nothing to do with you. I knew it was a record label decision and not yours, because it just didn't make sense with the first album, and then that came out, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
And it's funny because at the time, my manager, I didn't have a manager anymore because they'd taken money and I'd had to switch. So the people of my circle around me wasn't actually my immediate circle. Right. So, a lot of things were just not right. But the funny thing is, everything in hindsight is good, because I've got out of it now, and I'm in a good place. So
brilliant. Okay, so what or who do you appreciate today?
Could it be anyone? Oh, well, who do I appreciate today?
Yeah, what or who? It could be anything, anyone.
Do you know what? I know it sounds a bit cliche, but my mum, to be honest, because she's just been such a great role model. She keeps going regardless of no matter what the obstacles are. And that's something that she's instilled in me as well. Even though I've had my moments of like, oh, I can't. I look at her and I think, you've done so much. You've raised me. You've made sure that I had a great life. And, you never made excuses, and you always kept it positive. So I appreciate my mum.
And Rasheed, do you want to say something about that? Because it's about recognising those who have supported along the way, and also informing, I guess, positive affirmations that Terri herself can believe in.
I think for me, there's so many things about that song that I really like. I think that it's apt almost in any situation. The last thing I don't know if I tweeted it or put it on Instagram, I wrote the words that love is the only thing that's going to serve you in every situation. And what I liked about that song was it was uplifting. There's a line in it, this is my time to rise above, and I can't remember, so I feel as though in so many situations, if somebody's feeling lost and they're wanting to affirm themselves, if it's somebody who already knows that, I'm going down this path, or actually even in really dark times like we are in today, where it is, it's the time where we need to step up, it's the time when we need to stand together, it's the time that we need to do something. So I really, really appreciate that song from that kind of space. And as somebody who used to be a singer-songwriter, I get that. And I get that. I get when, and it's written from a higher kind of consciousness, and that's what we need. We need where artists are coming from that point of a higher consciousness, and to encourage people, whatever it is that they're wrestling with. So I can just imagine somebody sat at home hearing that, like when I was a kid and I was hearing certain songs, and they think, that's speaking to me right now. Yeah, it is my time. Either I need to get my act together, or I'm going for it. So really, really well done. So I really love that, and I just find it really wonderfully uplifting. So good on you.
I was smiling. I'm like, thank you.
That's brilliant. Now, before we kind of go to the present moment and go forward, let's just go back a bit. So you stepped on the scene in 2003 with your album Untitled, and Drawing Board, Love You for Life and Ching Ching are still my favourite tracks. Can you cast your mind back to remember how you felt when that album was released?
I mean, I just remember being just excited that as you said, I was looking at people like Whitney Houston, and then obviously, India Arie came out, Lauryn Hill, they were all there before me, and I was like, I'm getting a chance to do what they do. So to me, I was just like a kid in a candy store, just excited, getting to go to these massive studios and hear my voice back recorded and sounding amazing, so I was in a great space and in a happy space, very happy space.
Rasheed, do you want to say something about hearing your voice back? Because I don't know if you know, but I'm a counsellor as well. So I know the power of hearing your voice back when you are in, having an emotional difficulty and how empowering that can be. What advice or what kind of comments can you make as an extension of that?
That's very powerful, because I think that so many people feel as though they've got to find their voice, or they don't have a voice, or how to discover their voice. And actually, lots of the time, people don't like hearing their voices back, even sometimes singers, performers, actors, actresses. So it's quite kind of strange. I think that also sometimes other people help you find your voice. And I know that today is all about remembrance. You've just been talking about your own career, remembering. And I think that maybe I'd say to anyone listening, who are the people who've inspired you, who've helped you find your voice. But I think there is something about, as a singer, how do you find your authentic voice? Then when you hear it back and it's all of its magnificence, because also by the way, it's a great vocal, because I'm also kind of, we're kind of critical as artists. I was like, listen to,
definitely.
This is a vocal. This is a great kind of vocal. So somebody who's found their voice. So, and the thing I say to people who are also listening to this, and maybe they're feeling that they don't have a voice, and I was saying this just a group of people. I was running a workshop on Friday for the NHS. I said to them, everyone's born with a voice. If you hear a little baby, the baby is singing, it's crying from its lungs, which is where the voice comes from. But so often over time we kind of forget that. We forget that magic. So I think it's very, very powerful. And I think for an artist or for anyone in their career, often finding or reclaiming your voice. Also, it's an industry in which people expect to be so rounded, so young. I think that that's really cruel. And so often when you're finding yourself is then the moment when the label lets go of us or what have you. So yeah, amazing. That thing about finding your voice and being true to your voice, whether it's a loud or a quiet voice, being true to it is key.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to go for a quick music break, and I'm going to play Ching Ching.
Yes.
So guys at home, don't go anywhere.
When you feel like the raindrop that's been falling, disappearing in the wind. When you feel like the spaceship that's been flying. Life is up and in. When you feel like the last one in the line. Say you can't come in when nobody else. And I'll be loving you. Stay. Right there, baby.
Colorful radio.
So that was Ching Ching, Loving You Still by the amazing Terri Walker, who is now joining me in the studio with Rasheed Ogunlaru. Why am I doing that? You see how I'm just singing?
I love it.
I need to stop.
See, it's good. The singing, the voice.
No, I can't. So, so you've just heard that track.
Yeah.
That was released on your 2003 album.
Yeah.
Knowing that we're now in 2015, can you see the difference?
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, if I listen back to my first album, to my album now, and hence why I've called this album Entitled, because I know who I am now. I have my right to be here. There's nothing, I'm not afraid. I'm not scared of anything. And like listening to my voice then, it sounds great to me, but I can hear all the little, the little bits that I wasn't really loving. But now, listening to my stuff now, I'm like, yes, I'm owning it. So
that's brilliant.
interesting.
Great. And I wanted to ask a little bit, today's theme is remembrance. We're talking about remembrance a lot, and kind of ironically, it's been quite a difficult time over the weekend with everything that's going on.
Yes, of course.
And you were talking a little bit about your early career and the people who inspired you. And I wondered, are there any people who you really who really inspire you? Perhaps people who are artists who have passed, or people in your own life who've passed, who you would really remember and celebrate. Who are those people?
Do you know what? For me, Whitney, when first time I saw Whitney Houston and I heard her sing The Greatest Love, and first we have to think about the lyrics that she's saying in that song, The Greatest Love of All, you have to love yourself, basically. I remember seeing her thinking, she's so beautiful. And then her voice and the way she kind of just touched you. And then from that moment, she's up to this day still one of my favourite all-time singers. There's amazing singers, but she just has it all.
Yeah.
But and it's funny because you find out after that she was actually very insecure and she was really doubted herself a lot. And you gave so many of us this kind of, platform to make us believe that we're amazing, and you didn't believe in yourself. It's crazy to me. So Whitney Houston, I would say.
Do you think that's part of the industry? Being in the industry, obviously, and it's certainly been under big management, do you think the industry can make you doubt yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, when I came out, they were like, oh, your bum's too big, you need to lose weight, you're acting too black. And then look, J-Lo comes out, next thing is Beyonce, and then everyone wants to have a big bum now.
Yeah.
And they made me feel really insecure about it at the time, and that I'm a bit too quirky, or I'm a bit too this. Now being quirky is the coolest thing, so...
It's like there's a trend. There's a trend for quirkiness. There's a trend for big butts.
Yeah.
There's a trend. I wonder what the next trend is going to be. Either way, though, it's ridiculous, and you're fighting that. So it's like you got to know yourself because you're going into a system. Because it is a system. Let's be real.
It is. Yeah.
Let's go further. It's an institution.
Yeah.
And you're going into that, and you actually have to fight against that in order to remain who you are and remain sane.
Yeah, sane, and it's crazy. And if you haven't got the right infrastructure around you, you will end up kind of, what they say, fools fall for nothing. No,
You'll fall for anything,
fall for anything, because you're like, oh, I don't know. But then that's the reason why I took myself away from it for a minute.
If you could whisper into the ears of your 26-year-old self, what would you say? And I say 26 because that was the time that you moved into a different direction after your second album and you left the record label.
Yes.
So if you could whisper into the ears of your 26-year-old self, what would you say?
I'll just say everything's going to be okay, and just be true to yourself, really.
Brilliant.
As much, just keep doing what you're doing, and just surround yourself with people that understand you and want to see you grow with you, so.
And I think that's so apt and so true. And what strikes me about that is that's so true to any business and any industry. And I know, before I was a coach, I actually was a singer and performer, and things didn't happen for me. And that led me, thank goodness, to the work that I do now.
Yeah.
And I think that stuff that you're saying about just being true to yourself and finding people who really believe in you is so important. And again, that's what this show, Self-Central, is about. So what's helped you find yourself? So for you, what's been key to you finding yourself on your journey? I mean, you talked about your mother being very important. Was that something you always had? Did you always have that? Or was it something instilled in you? Or was it the experiences that you've had or challenges you've had along the way? What's helped you to find yourself?
Do you know what? I think I have a very honest family. If they don't like something, like, that's rubbish, we don't like that. But at the same time, it's not always... You don't have to listen to everything that people say around you. I think what made me find myself is to actually stop listening to people and actually listening to myself. I had to listen to myself, like, do you like it? No matter what anyone else is thinking, how do you feel about it? If you're not sure about it, then, maybe then change it. But if you're sure, but everyone else around you saying they don't like it, doesn't matter. But it's funny because now, like with this new album, I've literally kind of just stopped. I didn't listen to anybody. Like, there's a song called Lose Twice on my album. And I basically said, don't care about no opinions. They can't do nothing for me because they keep taking me. They keep breaking me. And every time I did listen to everyone, that's why I kept changing directions and I wasn't sure. And then the moment I stopped listening to them and just listened to myself, it was actually perfect.
Yeah, and that's really powerful, isn't it? Lisa, also as a counsellor sometimes, isn't it? That time where sometimes you need time to take yourself away, time to regroup, time
Definitely.
to heal. And I'm kind of mindful that lots of people, today we're talking also about remembrance. I'd say, are you actually at a point when you're ready to step out, or is it a time for you to be healing, time for yourself, time with loved ones, time with those people who really care about you, because you've really got to be very aware, again, listening to that inner voice about what it is that you actually need. Listen to yourself, not everybody,
Exactly. And after your third album, I Am, you took a break away. So you obviously identified that's something that you needed.
I needed to.
What did you do in your breakaway?
Oh, I don't know if I could talk about this on air.
Terri,
I'm joking.
Don't turn the air blue, Terri.
No. Woo! Is this I'm joking. I wasn't. I know you hate it so much. No, to be honest, I just stepped away from the whole industry. I was around friends and family. I didn't talk about music. If someone asked me to sing, I'd be like, go and buy a record, listen to it. I didn't want to be in that world, you know what I mean? So I was just around normal people and I just lived life. I went cinema, went out, I had a boogie, had a drink, but I was still always in music. I'd make music, but you just wouldn't see me.
Right.
And it wasn't about Terri Walker. It was just about my voice. So I started doing projects. And so I kind of still had that, I was still feeding that little hunger inside, but I wasn't outwardly kind of, projecting it properly until I was ready again.
That's really good, because I guess what you experienced could have made you fall out of love with music, and then you could have just stopped. And I think sometimes when you stop and you want to get back on it again, it's harder to get the motions going again. So it's really good that you still continued, but you just did it in a different way.
Because I fell out of love, as you said, with the system, with the business, and I realised, you know what? Because I think even my mum was saying to me when I was in it at the beginning, my mum still loves music, but she said my experience made her hate it because she didn't realise how much things go on in the background, because you just see the record, you don't see what we go through behind the scenes. You might not hear a record, might not hear someone sing again for another 10 years, but you don't know why. You're just like, oh, this is taking the time off. They just maybe have taken the time off because they couldn't release another record, or you know, things have happened to them, and they, you know. And I think she just said, you know what, since that she doesn't believe anything in the newspapers anymore.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, because we live in a world, isn't it, where we prize fame and celebrity and all of that kind of stuff. What is it that you've learned about this business? And what would you say to somebody, again, who's young, who's wanting to be, you know, that they feel as though they've got to make it in an industry such as this industry, where there's so many industries that are valid? What would your advice be to somebody who's young? Because it does happen, isn't it? Lots of people think, the only thing is if I'm a singer, if I'm a celebrity, or if I'm a footballer or something like that. Or what would you say to those people?
And it really depends on the kind of artist that you want to be, because I knew early on that I want to be taken seriously, and I knew that I want to be able to hear my music and sing until I'm 150, if I get to that age. But I want to be able to be like, you know, like Karifa, come and turn up and then sing when you feel like.
Listen.
Because to me, it's so important, the way music touched me and the way it made, I think music really brought me up. You know, it raised me, because my mum, from growing up into like, from being a child, there was music always in my house, consistently, it never stopped. And I just think it's important that anyone that wants to pursue this understands the kind of person that they want to be portrayed as out there, you know. So if you want to be a serious artist, you can't always take the quick routes, because your career will die down very quickly. Because if you know, it's just like quick fixes, and then after that, on to the next one.
That's the thing that worries me about certain reality TV shows, naming no names, but the one that comes on Saturday and Sunday nights. And it's like, you know, I'm like, Terry's like, what show is that?
TV like that no more, you know. So I'm like, okay, I know.
You know, and you see them on a stage and they're crying and like, oh, I need this. This is my life. I'm like, you're 16.
This is your life.
You've just begun.
It's such a tough industry, and I mean, I think there's some wonderful things about kind of shows like that, and I mean, I guess unfortunately, but one of the things that amazed me when I was pursuing singing was, back then, the major record labels combined only signed about 85 artists per year. That's all of them combined. So if you're wanting to make it, I mean, as Terri said, you need to be centered, you need to work hard and so on. You've got to also realize that not everyone's going to be signed. And even if you're signed today, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be signed tomorrow. And there's all the kind of heartache that you don't hear about that particular kind of stuff. But I think whether it is that you want to be a singer, whether it is that you want to be a shop fitter, you know, follow your heart. And again, as Terry's saying, find people around you who kind of who really believe in you and who kind of support you, and don't be overwhelmed by the stuff you see on TV. And also bear in mind, some of them have been singing, you might think that they're an overnight sensation, but the first overnight sensation, like Susan Boyle, been trying it for 30 however many years. So, you know, be mindful.
Exactly.
It's very true.
It's a lot of propaganda out there.
So this year, you released Entitled. Now independent and in control of your own image and sound. How does it feel this time around? Oh,
it feels awesome. I'm just constant. I think everyone that meets me is like, oh my God, you're like really happy. I'm just so glad that you're back. And I'm like, I'm glad that everyone can see it and feel it. Like, I feel so uplifted. And I feel like the one thing that I definitely did learn this time around is that I feel like I'm here for a purpose this time. It's not about me. I feel like you were saying earlier, I think I'm here to kind of show people there's another way. My journey, hopefully, is going to teach somebody else, you know. You don't have to do what everyone else does.
I want to ask about that as a coach, because that's really dear to my heart. And that's what I got a sense of with the tracks, because we played we auditioned loads of tracks, including by well-known artists and so on.
Like, it took months,
you know,
Terry.
It took months.
Are you serious?
Seriously.
To find the right song. And so for me, the consciousness, the lyric, the empathy and all of that kind of to be right. So what do you feel is that purpose? What would you say is your purpose here on this planet? And what advice would you give to somebody else who's trying to find their purpose?
I know my purpose is being able to talk about my past experiences and not being scared to talk about it. You know, some people don't want to always tell you about what they went through or that it's been hard. Like, no, it's been hard. You know, it's like nothing's been perfect for me. So, but I'm in a place now where it nearly is perfect. And I think I would want to make sure that everyone that is listening hopefully can kind of be honest with yourself. I think that's what I would say to you. Be honest with yourself and really kind of like, just be honest and be hard on yourself, and really kind of look at your journey, look at where you want to be, look at who you really are, and then fix it a day at a time. And then you know, slowly but surely you'll get there. And I think every day when I wake up, even though it's not selling bucket loads, but every day, like 5 to 6 people will say to me, that song touched me, this song did this. And that's all I want. That's all I actually really wanted to do. Obviously, I need to make some money, thank you. And that will happen. And I feel like I'm not worried. Again, it's like stop worrying about things so much. Because I have to worry a lot. Oh my God, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
I couldn't agree with you more. Sometimes people get so caught up in the outcome, they forget to put the input. You're not going to get the outcome without putting the input. You've got to put in the work and really care and be passionate and just try and be the best artist, the best singer, the best whatever it is that you are, best office worker that you can be, and focus on that.
And you know, it's funny because when I look back now to where I am right now, from like 2-3 years ago, I'd sit in my bedroom looking at the ceiling thinking, how am I going to do this? What's going on?
Wow.
How, like, I really was so in such a dark place. I was like, what's the point? You know, not saying I ever wanted to kill myself, nothing like that. But
but you can feel low. We can all feel low at times.
And I felt like no one understood me. No one was really getting my music. I couldn't get arrested. And next minute, one day, something just clicked. And I don't know what it was, but I just went, enough is enough. Just get on with it.
Is that where songs like This Is My Time came from? They came from that kind of emotion?
But remember, This Is My Time was in 2005. Right. So I wasn't even... Wow. That happened and I was in a good space and a lot of other stuff happened. And then I disappeared for about 6 years. And did a bunch of other stuff. But then again, this resurgence, I don't know what happened. It just came back and I'm like, you know what? What's wrong with you? And I look back now and I'm like... Even with Entitled, just the way, you know, it got on iTunes, it got albums you need to hear, and then people that are following me and people that I admired from back then are following me. Like when people like Gabrielle saying to me, I've been a fan for ages. What's her name? Carleen Anderson, Omar. I'm like, what?
Wow. That's something else I want to say as well. Is that artists like you, which as you know, I call you guys Neosoul. I mean, sorry, I don't want to ever label anyone, but I will put you in that bracket just to make things easier. But artists like you're rarely in the public eye. When was the last time you saw Jill Scott do an interview in the UK? When was the last time you saw Angie Stone? When was the last time you saw Eric Benet? When was the last time you saw Jean Aiko? You guys exist, but you're not having the same airplay as the Justin Biebers, the Ariana Grande, whatever her name is. Like, you're not having the same, and that's not to be disrespectful, but you just don't have the same airtime and airplay. So there's different things for different people. And, you know, someone who is low at the moment might actually resonate with your music, but they don't know anything about you due to the way the music industry works. And it's not fair. It's actually not fair because it's actually big enough for everyone.
It is, exactly. I think it's big enough for everyone too.
But I wonder if, you know, the thing, and I think links to what, you know, Terri was saying, that I think one of the things that I'd say to anyone trying to make it in the mainstream, remember the mainstream music industry is the mainstream music industry. And there's so many great artists that we really respect who... they're not the ones who necessarily sell the most records, but the ones that have longevity and people are completely respected. Do you know what I mean? So I think would you agree with that also, that sometimes you've got to realise that you're not necessarily going to be the one who's going to get all the Brit Awards or the Grammys when you're just being authentic to yourself?
And I think that's exactly what it is. I think in a way it's also teaching you that you don't need that. Like as long as you are feeding your audience is going to keep feeding the rest of the other audiences. So I don't need to be on, because what makes my thing more powerful is the fact that I still kept going without getting that, you know. And
very true. And those people find you, I guess. If you're looking for something more, then you're going to find something more. And then when they find you, then it's like, oh my God, it makes your legacy so much stronger every time. That's a very good point. Thank you for saying that. All right, so we're going to wrap up.
Yes. So
I want to know what's next for you. And I also want you to let me know about your track, Already Told Ya. Because that's what we're going to end with.
Yes, okay. So next for me is basically I'm going to, by next year, do a lot of more headline shows. I'm trying to do a bunch of like little shows around London, so you guys will have to come to those.
Of course.
And I've got a few features coming up, writing for other people, you know, empowering some more young artists and stuff like that. But I mean, for me, it's just music, consistently music, more music, and just being out there, spreading my light.
Oh, I love it.
But already told you, funny enough, I don't know if you remember, there's a project I did with Nicole Ray. I don't know if you knew, it's called Lady. And it's the guys that produced Aloe Black's album, you know.
Okay, yep.
And we had an amazing one. We were in America, we were streamed by Rolling Stone. But it kind of ended in a way where, again, I didn't feel right for me. So I kind of said, you know, I was going to do my solo stuff anyway, but they were kind of not really wanting me to do that. But they knew that I was going to do my solo stuff, but they wanted me not to tell people. So as it kind of got to the end, it kind of ended really weird. So the song, it starts off my album, it's kind of dedicated to that situation where I said, I already told you I was going to be doing this, but for some reason you weren't really hearing me and you kind of left me in the lurch. It's fine though, because I'm going to keep going and do what I do, and this is what I'm here.
Brilliant. Yeah. It's really powerful as well, because you're just affirming, I already told you.
Yeah, I already told this is what I was going to do.
This is who I am.
Right. And I think the thing that strikes me about this, Terri, Dan, it's great having an artist here in the studio, because I think that music is one of those things that just touches everybody universally. Take a time like this or weekend like this where people have, I think one of the first things often people take console is the music. Yeah. Somebody went to play the piano after what would, for example, happened in Paris. And I think it's really important for us to remember the importance of the consciousness of the lyric and being authentic to yourself so that you can have that impact. Yes. So it's so glad to hear that in your journey about finding yourself, being authentic to yourself, even in the times whereby it's taken you down a completely different path. So, keep up the good work. And thank you so much for the theme tune.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been an amazing Sunday. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, darling. No, and I just echo everything Rasheed just said. Yeah, so thank you for coming in. Thank you for explaining your journey, even though it's a lot longer than 25 minutes. But you've explained it really well, so I appreciate that. And actually, as we've got 1 minute left, quickly, what advice would you give to artists eager to get into the industry?
Keep going, keep making music, try to make sure that you write your own music, make sure that you're original, write with people that or work with people that, as I said, believe in you and will help you iron out your kinks until you become perfect.
Yeah, and can I add to that also just master your craft?
Yeah, master your craft.
Master it.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Also, find me on Twitter at the real MZ Walker, and on Instagram I am Terri Walker, and also I'm on Facebook.
Thank you so much.